Hello?
Okay.
Pinoyboi.
So I was just asking to come up. You said asked me to come up because I
Yeah,
thought it was
yeah,
funny that was Goku.
Because you said Goku, and then you laughed at immeasurable speed. So who's beating Giorno? Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I was just curious why he's immeasurable because you wanted me to come up for that.
Yeah, you can go to one of my posts on my page where I scale Giorno. But it seems that
I,
you said Goku
I can't
beats
go to a
Giorno.
post on your page while you're on live.
No,
Yes, you can. What? Say wallahi, bro. Say wallahi.
We can go. We can go to. Oh, I can't.
Pinoyboi. I just want you to get.
Cool.
Okay, why do you think Goku is beating Giorno?
I'm an unk, so you know.
No, I'm an unk too. How old are you?
No, I just want to know what the immeasurable is.
Pinoyboi, how
I am
old
an
are
unk.
you?
Yeah, I want to know what. I want to know.
Wait, this is Pinoyboi. Wait, this is you.
Yeah.
You're that Gojo Glazer,
Yeah,
aren't you?
I'm an unk.
Bro, you're that Gojo Glazer. Are you the
I
Asian
guess.
dude? The Asian dude?
I mean, I guess Gojo Blazer, but Asian dude too.
Mashallah, bro. Mashallah. Pinoyboi. Okay. So you're not familiar with Giorno's scaling.
I don't know what that means, but thank you, I assume.
No, I'm not. No. I'm just using it as a description. You can say I'm secret as a black guy with dreads. It's fine. I'm putting a.
He is a
No,
black guy
the
with
word you
dreads.
use, mashallah. I don't know what that meant.
Oh,
But yeah, I appreciate
okay.
it.
It means God has done it. It's an Islamic saying. Okay, so Pinoyboi.
Wait, it's mashallah.
Yeah, mashallah. Pinoyboi.
Cool. Cool. Well, respect to you, brother.
Mashallah.
Yeah, I was curious what makes him immeasurable. Are you
do you
using
wanna see
the revert to zero argument?
Yeah, he moves in erase time.
Okay, so I have a little contention with that when it comes to that. So, would you agree that revert to zero is probably Giorno's ultimate ability, since he needed the golden spear to activate it?
Yeah, return to zero is his ultimate ability. Yeah.
Okay, so for me, I feel like, and this is just my personal preference, obviously, you can let me know what you feel about it. I feel like you wouldn't be faster than your ultimate ability, and immeasurable speed would be faster than revert to zero.
Well, I think an ability.
Sure. So
I think wait. I'm explaining to you why I said why. Wait, real quick. I think an ability is separate. Yeah, I think a hack's ability is separate. Yo, Roger, shut up. I think a hack's ability is separate and distinct from physical capacities. So I could have an ability, right, to durability negate you, but my physical, the way I punch, how fast I punch, has nothing to do with that. We would say that, for example, durability negation Rio. Have you seen One Piece?
Yeah.
Okay, One Piece.
Talking,
Rio and One Piece.
Yeah, Rio.
Okay. Let's talk about you know Dragon Ball, right? Hakai.
Yeah.
Okay, Hakai has certain attributes to it. It has certain properties, but none of these properties are speed. There's no speed to it. It's just a thing, right? It's just an object. Like
So I think you're misunderstanding what I'm saying.
Okay,
I'm
go
not
ahead,
saying
go
that
ahead,
your
go ahead.
obviously your hack abilities can't be different from your physicality. That's obvious. You know, Gojo being able to, since you brought up Gojo earlier, Gojo being able to like manipulate whether you think it's an infinite space or just a pseudo infinite space. He obviously doesn't have the ability in his physical body to do anything that would actually scale to anything towards infinite. So yeah, it's completely separate from your physical. I have no issues with that whatsoever. My issue is that like you wouldn't need an ability like revert to zero if you're faster than what the ability can do itself. So, for example, would we agree, and obviously I'm asking, would we agree that the revert to zero is based off of causality?
Yeah, but I don't think it has a set speed.
Okay.
I think it's just a function of reality.
Sure. So that's where I'll have contention, and I'll explain, and then you can let me know what you think about it. So when it comes to causality, do you know the rules of causality?
What do you mean by rules?
So there's rules of causality. The very first one is temporal precedence.
I think there's I was gonna say that. I think there's different theories upon what causality is gonna be. I'm an A-series personally.
Yeah, so if you want to pull it up real quick on like, if you want to Google, I think you're at your computer. If you want to Google whatever the rules of causality is, and let me know. It's the first rule is typically going to be something along the lines of temporal precedence or some wording of temporal precedence.
Sure.
SecretEye might lose today.
That's fine.
joking.
There's no losing.
That's fine.
There's no losing. We're just talking.
That's fine. I mean, it depends on what you mean.
So if we're agreeing,
it depends on what you mean there. It depends on what you mean there when you talk about temporal precedence. So when you say the cause must occur, the cause must occur before the effect, I agree with you.
Correct. Yes, sir. Yeah. So if we're agreeing that temporal precedence needs to take place, something needs to happen first before the effect can happen, then something needs to happen first before something can revert to zero, right?
Yes.
So whenever you're describing what immeasurable speed is, that completely contradicts temporal precedence because you do something before something happens, right? You throw a punch, like if you go down the descriptor of Versatile Wiki or Character Sensitive Profile, whichever one you want to go, you throw a punch before it lands. So you're doing something before the precedence even happens. So therefore, it's contradictory to its ultimate ability.
Do you think that immeasurable speed is
You throw a punch before it lands.
Wait. No, I get what he's saying because I have contentions with the infinite speed and immeasurable speed under A theory. But I want to ask you,
100%.
Yeah, but I want to ask you, do you think that when we talk about temporality there, in terms of what immeasurable speed is saying, do you think that immeasurable speed is saying that you act outside of binary sequence, like you can do 2 and then 1, or do you think that immeasurable speed is saying that before motions are taking place, insofar as the travel of celestial bodies, that you can move before the celestial bodies are able to do so?
I mean, I'm not sure what celestial bodies have to do with it, so let me give you an example of how I would... No, hold on. Let me give you an example of what I would define like immeasurable speed in terms of a very simplistic description. So whenever we're talking about someone, for example, racing 10 meters ahead, right? Let's say they are, let's just say MFTL plus. Obviously, they're going to get there in 0.0000 whatever 1 seconds, right? Let's say they have infinite speed, inaccessible, whichever one you want to go with, whatever is instantaneous, whatever you want to agree that is, right? If they're going to travel 10 meters, they would get there in 0 seconds. They just snap their fingers, essentially a teleportation, right? Except obviously with physical movement. If you're doing immeasurable speed, someone going 10 meters would get there in negative 1 seconds. Does that make sense? So for me, this is my opinion. So for me, throwing out words like celestial bodies and saying that something moves within a binary sequence rather than waiting for the celestial body to be moving first, I think there's a lot of fancy words that are thrown out in debates that don't really have much weight behind them. Whereas if you actually assign a value to something, regardless of how arbitrary it is, it makes it a far more of a concrete definition. I'm going to say that something that moving 10 meters in negative 1 seconds is far more of an accurate description than saying, are you waiting for a binary sequence before the celestial body moves? Does that make sense?
Yes. Okay, so when you're talking about tracking time there, whenever you're saying that it moves in negative 1 seconds, do you think that's substantive?
It is, exactly, yeah.
You think it's
because
substantive?
If somebody were to get there, so... Yes, I do think it has substance behind it, and I can explain why. So if somebody,
the speed value or the time itself?
Both. So the speed value, the whole point of the immeasurable speed, the reason that would have speed value is because whenever you're trying to plug things into the speed equation of speed equals distance over time, the point of immeasurable speed is it breaks that sequence.
Yes, I agree.
Right? That's the entire point of what immeasurable speed is. That's why it's one of these things that's not really easy to obtain, despite the fact that people try to upscale people as quickly as possible to that speed, but it never ends up being consistent, typically within a narrative, right? So whenever we're talking of, does this have substance? Yes, in my opinion, and the reason is because if somebody were to say that, let's say we start the time, it's 8 o'clock, right? Or 8 o'clock and 3 seconds, whatever. Someone, again, we'll use the 10-meter argument. Someone moves 10 meters at instantaneous time, it's still 9 p.m. and 3 seconds. Someone moves in negative 2 seconds to 10 meters, it's now 9 o'clock and 1 second. So he did get there faster than the guy who got there at 0 seconds. Does that make sense?
Yes, I understand. But what I'm saying is I find an issue when we're talking about temporal ordering there. When you say negative 2 there, Are you talking about the order of events? Or are you talking about time as a substance? Because if you're saying that time is a substance, I would disagree, and I'd like to hear the argument for that.
Sure. I mean, what do you mean by time as a substance?
Are you familiar with A theory versus B theory?
Not quite. Feel free to fill me in. I'm not quite sure where it fits into the argument, but I'd love to hear it.
Yeah. So usually when we're talking about time, especially causation, what we would say is under A theory, between two events, between T1 and T2, that the event here of me picking up my mouse is forcing a new event to occur. So there's direct causal efficacy between me doing something and then the result, the consequent there. That's under A theory. B theory would just say that the relation between two different events is simply linguistic or semantic. We would just say, like on a piece of paper, it's just mapping, well, there was property X right here, there's property X at T1, and there's property Y at T2. So it's purely relational. We're just mapping a difference in properties there.
Sure.
So when we're talking about time and some temporal ordering.
Oh, sorry, go ahead. My bad.
Yeah, so when we're talking about time in terms of temporal ordering, what I'm saying is I don't believe that when we talk about immeasurable speed, that is even possible to move faster than temporal sequencing, because I think to sequence acts is time itself. I would say that temporality is just a measure of change, right? So when I say that there's one act and then there's a second act, I don't think you can have the second act before the first one. So when I'm indexed to immeasurable speed there, I don't take a rigorous definition of VSBW. When I take immeasurable speed to be there, is that just before there's motion or objects in the universe having distinctive states there, that you can do something before those things have any act. So just within that T1, you can do anything freely.
Sure.
But I don't believe you can do. I don't believe that a measurable speed character could do something at this first point before the second point. I think all acts are inherently sequential.
Cool. So I have no problem with that. So here's where I have like contention with what you talk about, and this is where I say, and again, I mean this completely respectfully for the record, but I think this is where like modern day anime debating has gone towards, or kind of devolved into, is like you said a lot of stuff that, in my opinion, didn't have too much substance towards the argument, and let me explain why. And again, I mean this no disrespectfully, right? But whenever you're talking about like the different sequences of how you're trying to say how time is sequenced out, whether temporal or through like A1 theory, T1 theory, all you're doing is changing of how you want the sequence of events to play out, whenever the definition of what you're using, which you're using immeasurable speed, is something else, right? So the problem here is that like now you're changing the point or the entire definition of measurable speed. So you'd need to be using some different kind of term. And if you want to do that, that's totally fine. But like whenever you go down this rabbit hole of different theories that don't really relate to what the actual definition is of that you brought up, then we're just kind of going off on a tangent that's not really relevant to the argumentation. Does that make sense? I
understand what you're saying, but I don't think that terms are univocal. So I could use a term, like for example, I could say go, and I can mean different things by go. When I say univocal there, I'm just saying that the word doesn't have one set meaning, especially if we go to, there's VSBW, there's CSAP, and there's also independent just ways of theorizing and scaling these things. So say, for example, VSBW, they have a tiering system. It's called outerversal. Outerversal is a tiering system where they say that this attack potency of a punch is beyond dimensional existence. It's a non-physical punch. But how is something that's inherently based on what they say attack potency is based off the newtons you could produce in a punch? How is that going to be outside of the bounds that physicality entails there? If that's okay. You get what I'm saying?
So I understand what you're saying. And again, I don't want to go too much down this rabbit hole, because again, I think this is where we're detracting too much from the main point. Even though I understand what you're saying, I still think it has relevance to the argumentation, right? So whenever we're talking about like things not being univocal, that's totally fine. Whenever someone says, oh, that's fire, clearly that has multiple definitions. If someone says, yeah, man, that anime episode was fire, clearly it's not actually fire, something that's going to burn something. I have no problem with things having different definitions. My problem is that whenever you're using something that has a pretty significant definition when it comes to what we're talking about, which is going to be power scaling, people don't typically think, oh, when I talk about immeasurable speed, I'm not going to be talking about what's in Versus Battle Wiki or CSAP. I'm going to be talking about my own version of definition of what immeasurable speed is, right? If that's going to be the case, it'd be far more constructive for you to just say, hey, before I even talk about what speed, I don't even think about immeasurable speed. This is what I think this speed means. So whenever you're throwing out the term immeasurable, that's already well known within the context of anime debating, then all you're already doing is bringing discourse before you can even move the conversation further, right? If I say that anime episode is fire, no one thinks off the top of their head, I'm thinking about the actual word or the actual thing that burns something of fire, right? They know within the context of what I'm talking about, that fire means that episode was good. Whenever you're just suddenly changing the definition from measurable speed to something that you're thinking it is by itself, you're inherently already destroying the conversation, because nobody knew that outside of you. And so now we're detracting from the original conversation, which is why we're going down this rabbit hole. Does that make sense?
Yeah. It seems to beg the question, just to pose once again, that terms are always going to be known by any agent in the same way. And specifically when I came up, and now I realize who you are, and I apologize for like not giving you your dues or respect there. But specifically when we talked about the
terms, you're good, man. I felt no disrespect. No worries.
When we talk about the terms here, you specifically asked me, why do you think Giorno is immeasurable speed? And when I gave you an exhaustive account of what I believe, first of all, time to be, how we determine these things, and then what the speed here is going to be indexed to, or what it's going to mean, that is specifically what I'm indexed to. I'm not indexed to anything else. So when I say that Giorno is immeasurable speed, I mean it under this modality or this theorem or this system, right? So I'm not saying that under all systems this is going to apply. That's fine. But whenever you ask me specifically, I don't want to debate Goku versus Giorno, I just want to talk about immeasurable speed. What do you mean there, Secret? Well, that's my whole point. That gives me the space whenever you ask me that question to explain exactly what I mean by immeasurable speed and give the defendians and defendiendum to essentially make it make sense based upon my theorems. But I think even if say I get what you're saying, even if we go to a normative definition for immeasurable speed, I think we can still prove that Giorno is immeasurable speed, even if we take what VSBW says to be true dogmatically. So do you want to talk about that instead? Because it seems you don't really like the way I'm going about it. Okay.
No. I mean, like I said, everyone debates their own way. Obviously, I'm not. That's why I said no disrespect. Everyone has their own method of debating these days. I feel like it's just kind of devolved into using, like far fancier words that are needed.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I agree.
Just trying to really kind of flex on your opponent by using words that typically aren't used in typical conversation anyway. But that's totally fine. Like I said, that's just what people do. But yeah, if you want to go down of why I personally think against contradictory, I'll just restate the point. We can go from there. Obviously, if something has to have temporal precedence, something needs to happen first. But if your speed is faster than something happening first, it's just contradictory to the ability itself.
Okay, let me write it down.
Also, just so you know, I only have 5 or 10 minutes left.
That's fine, bro. No.
Suspend
us, but
just to let you know.
Yeah, whatever time. Yeah. Okay, so P1 is that to be immeasurable speed, you must be moving beyond causal events. Right?
Sorry.
Can you just repeat?
If you're just writing it down.
Can you repeat the argument real quick? I'm writing it down.
Yeah. So immeasurable speed is, for example, doing something before the other thing can happen. So by Versatile Wiki standards or CSAP, whichever one they said, for example, throwing a punch before it happens, or landing a punch before you throw it, whichever one.
Okay.
And so temporal precedence requires something to happen first. So it's just contradictory.
Okay. Requires a first action. Okay. So this would be presupposing B theory, which is fine for me. When we talk about B theory, it's one long strip, right? You would agree. It's a temporal. It's an axis. That lies on the x-axis of space, right? Because it just progresses linearly.
Sure. So you're saying 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10? Is that what you're saying?
Okay. Yeah. I don't see the metaphysical contradiction with saying that at some point across this strip, the relation.
Sorry, where did metaphysics come into this?
Right now, we're talking about temporal metaphysics right now. When you talk about cause, you're talking about metaphysics.
Hold on. 1 second.
It's a fancy word. Okay, forget I said metaphysics. Let's talk about time. We talk about cause effect. I'll wait till you come back. But if you have to go, that's also totally fine. I can explain that to you.
Wait, what theory? Wait, what theory of metaphysics do you go under?
For what specifically?
Generalize. It doesn't matter.
Metaphysics is very broad, bro. It's a very very.
This nigga just said what theory metaphysics do you go under?
Wait, okay, because if I'm correct, when it's going under cause.
Wait. We can talk because he has limited time and you don't have limited time, boy. You got listen, bro. I already know you're gonna skip school tomorrow. It's fine. Okay, Pinoyboi. So talking about the relation, the relations. Okay, let me draw a line. So when we talk about B theory, we're just talking about the relations between T1 and T2.
I'm going to be honest, I can't see your paper,
okay,
so you can just explain.
I'm
going to be honest, sorry, I can't see it.
Yeah. Okay. It doesn't look the best, but it's fine. So you can see this little line between T1 and T2. Sure. Okay, so this could be the punch, and this could be the act of the punch itself. Okay? But these things aren't...
Okay, so you're saying
but these
T1's the punch, T2 is the punch landing?
Yes. But immeasurable speed analytically is just positing that in terms of temporal ordering, the relation here can change. So all it's saying here is that these two things can flip. The effect can show up before the cause is observed. The cause still requires first. So I'm gonna explain it to you. Oh, my bad. So the cause exists. Then the effects exist, and then it goes back behind here, and then just shows up. But this thing still exists because the distinction between these two things are only relation. It is not. There's no causal efficacy here. This moment here isn't forcing this here. It's just a relation between two distinct things and properties. So the attributes here, there is a first cause here. This happens. The effect is instantiated, but when this effect is instantiated, the relation between the effect being instantiated and the cause is just being moved to some prior moment. So it's just being moved to before the cause was observed, but they both still exist at the same time because B theory as a theory holds that all of these events are occurring at the same time. Here, let me bring up a definition for you. B theory time.
So hold up. So basically, what you're saying is, if we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you're just saying 3 moves to 1.
3 moves to 1. Yeah, 3 moves to 1 because in B theory eternalism, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. There's no real ethic. There's the 1 isn't causing 2. So it's just a line of things. It's just a line of things.
That's totally fine.
There's no contradiction.
I just don't want the rant to go on too long.
Yeah.
No, yeah, and I have no problem with that. What I'm saying is, I just don't want it to go down this rabbit hole of B theory. So that's totally fine. I don't mind that explanation at all. So what would be your point moving forward?
Okay, my point moving forward is there's no contradiction with saying that you just change the relation between 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. There seems to be no contradiction as long as they all equally exist within this block. Can you see this? Yeah, let me move this a little bit.
Kind of B theory? Yeah, a little bit like that, yeah.
Let me move
it. So the contradiction would be, so let's say that, I'm sorry, let me move over here. So all I'm saying is, so reverting to 0 is, if one thing were to happen, so let's say we go to 1, 2, 3 again, we'll use that example. So 3 would go back to 1, right? Because you're reverting.
No, they're all existing at the same time. The relation there isn't.
No, not immeasurable. Immeasurable.
For what? Just in general.
I'm talking about revert to 0.
Revert to 0. If we go under B theory, revert to 0 is always existing. All it does is just change the relation here. But I think even more so than that, Pinoyboi, I think people conflate, and also something what you're saying is like, his ability to revert to 0 is debunking the fact that his speed could be faster, could be immeasurable speed. I think that's a false dichotomy. So let's stop talking about B theory real quick. Do you think it's possible?
I wouldn't say it's a false dichotomy. What would be the false dichotomy portion of it? Because that's kind of what we're debating right now.
I'm gonna tell you why. Do you think it's possible that without Giorno knowing, or without even GR knowing, that the ability reverts Diavolo's actions? Does GR need to be conscious during the sequence for the ability to revert his actions?
If you're talking about that sequence, Giorno himself didn't know that it was happening.
I'm talking about GER. I'm talking about GER. Is it necessary that GER knows about?
Yeah, because they stated in the manga that they didn't know that they weren't aware that it happened. It just happened.
Level with me. You know Gojo's Infinity, right?
Yeah. What about it?
Does Gojo's Infinity need to be sentient to activate?
His being separate from himself? Or are you saying does Gojo need to be awake?
No. Does the actual Infinity itself, does the ability need to be thinking for it to naturally just stop things from attacking him?
The ability doesn't think by itself.
The ability doesn't think. It's just a function of existence at that point. It's just doing things. It's like a pen writing by itself. So we could imagine a case where Giorno's ability works without Giorno or Requiem being active. There's no reason to assume that the reason that GER is acting and awake and speaking to Diavolo in that instance is because of return to 0. In fact, let me bring up the screenshot for you. 1 second. Giorno stand card.
No, I know what you're talking about.
I'm explaining.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
There's no need here. There's no need here for Giorno to be. There's no
I thought
need
you guys
for
have
GR
scam
to be.
servers these days.
We do, but it's just a hassle right now. I can't lie.
Fair enough.
All right. It says discovered after was pierced by the arrow can turn the opponent's actions or will to 0. Whoever is hit by this ability will even have his death return to 0, which would mean he'll repeatedly experience death over and over again. I want to know what here specifically is entailing or necessitating that Giorno will be, that Requiem itself, the stand itself, is going to be active during and mentally aware and physically moving during the erasure. Because right here we have a distinction. The stand.
Hold on. Secret.
Yeah,
hold
go
on.
ahead,
Secret.
Go ahead.
Respectfully, that's a straw man because I never said that was the case.
I'm not saying. I'm not saying it is. I'm explaining to you why they're distinct here.
You asked me a question.
Yeah, no. It's rhetorical.
I never argued.
No, you're good. It's rhetorical.
Oh, okay.
Okay, real quick. So Golden Experience Requiem. This is the stand. This is the physical body. This is the thing that punches, right? That's distinct from the power, the speed, the range, the precision, the learning. All those things are distinct from it. These are properties and attributes. It says, can return the opponent's actions or will to zero. So return to zero, the ability is distinct from the stand body itself. Okay? So here, let me pull up the sequence. Mongoose. Golden Wind.
I feel like that still isn't addressing my argument.
What specifically have I not addressed?
Well, I mean, the ability working separate doesn't really deter my argument of it being inconsistent.
The concept of measurable speed itself, or the stand moving it qualifying for a measurable speed? Which thing specifically?
The part that, so if we're going back to the sequence, 1, 2, 3, immeasurable means 3 comes before 1 now, right?
Okay.
The point of revert to 0 is 3 just goes back to 1.
Okay.
It's irrelevant as to whether GER works separately.
Okay.
Also, someone just turned on the machine. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, I can still hear you. You're good. Okay. I think I explained the relations there to the best. We could conclude upon that if you want. But I think, how about this? If I bit the bullet, and let me say I bit the bullet there, because we both agreed upon certain theorems. The measurable speed is gibberish, right? Like VSBW they be saying stuff. Like, how do they be saying stuff? Let's say it is the case that immeasurable speed in itself does not make sense. Based upon the values and the virtues that it posits that a character must display in order to meet said criteria, Giorno displays the criteria. So if I bit the bullet, I said, okay, you know what, immeasurable speed, it makes no sense, it's illogical, it's metaphysically impossible, it's logically impossible, whatever. In terms of actually meeting the criteria, Giorno meets the criteria. That's
I don't
fine.
care about all that.
What do you,
I don't even care about all that though.
Then what do you specifically
I don't care about
like?
the whole it's like illogical, it's metaphysical, whatever. All I'm saying is measurable speed makes 3 go before 1.
Yeah. What's okay? There's okay.
So we can agree on that. So hold on, because this is where I think we're getting lost again in the word vomit. Mm-hmm. So I'll try to break down my argument in very simple, like yes or no's. Obviously, it's never as simple as that, but try to bear with me for a second. So measurable speed. 1, 2, 3, 3 becomes 4, 1. Can we agree on that?
Yes.
Okay. Revert to 0. 1, 2, 3, 3 becomes 1.
When you say become, this is what I'm referring to. There's no bring about here. It's just relation. It's just the ordering of events, earlier, later than. There's no issue with changing the order there. It's just relational. It's purely relational.
So then, in the same vein of 1, 2, 3, you want to say relational. What does revert to 0 do in the sequence of 1, 2, 3 in your opinion?
Okay. All it does. See, we'd even deny that there's sequence there under B theory, because the only ordering is that is something that like is linguistic or semantic there. So in a proper sense, when you technically say that 3 in the most proper sense is before 1, the only reason we're calling it 3 here is just to say that this is a distinct point, and that's a distinct point. If we said A, B, or C, which is probably better in this case, we just say that C is before A. Yeah, C is before A. We wouldn't say
C is before A in immeasurable
A.
speed.
Yeah,
What does ABC? What does that sequence do for revert to 0?
Okay, for revert to 0.
What happens?
Yeah, revert to 0. Revert to 0 specifically. Revert to 0 is distinct from immeasurable speed. What revert to 0 does, I think maybe that's where I had to disconnect there. What revert to 0 does is say, and I think revert to 0 is referring to dynamic bringing about. We say revert to 0, what it does is, if someone brings about a reality in which Giorno is losing or he dies, what return to 0 does, if they say that's 1 to 2, 1 is.
I mean, that's not the case. It just said any action. It didn't say he has to die. It just said any action.
Any action. I actually agree with you. That's the upscale, but whatever. Right? 1 and 2. Let's just say, for example, that's him dying. What revert to 0 does is, if 2 is possible, or it's about to happen, or it might happen, and Diavolo thinks he's about to win, or any character thinks they're about to win, what it does is it erases that. This is gone. This 2 that would possibly exist is gone. Now all we have is the 1, which is Giorno erasing any event that would come to attack him. So let's say there's a million things. There's a million arrows coming at him. These arrows would just go back to sender. They would never leave the original spot.
So where does it erase it? Can you show me the scan where it erases that event from happening?
Yeah, I got you.
I remember it reverting that event from happening.
I got you. Well, when I say erase there, I'm just saying revert. Like when we say revert here, What we mean is that it never actually happened.
Hold on. Mm-hmm. I think we can't conflate those two definitions. You can't say revert means erase. I think those are two vastly different things, because if you're trying to say A, B, C, and you're saying it erases C from happening, that's very, very different than reverting.
I think I could bite the bullet and just say that because time is erased, nothing is actually happening.
Okay, I mean, that's an entirely different argument. Again, see, this is the problem when
how's that a different
to say that we're going down semantics.
How does anything happen in zero? Yeah, if time is erased, how can anything happen?
Absolutely, I can explain how that's different. So if we're using the same example of the sequence A, B, C, if you're saying C goes before A in the terms of immeasurable speed, and then you're saying one is C, and then the other one is just C gets erased, I would pretty logically say that's a very different thing to happen.
They nuked my son. Are you serious? Okay, I'm gonna pull it up. Yeah, I'm about to get like.
I mean, while you're pulling that up, though,
well, what's your question? I'm sorry.
While you're pulling that up, would you not agree that you're good? You're good. Would you not agree that that's different?
That was different.
Saying A, B, C. C comes before A now in immeasurable speed, but if you do A, B, C, and then you erase C, that's very different than C coming before A.
Yeah, but I think him being immeasurable speed physically and his ability to revert actions are distinct there. I don't think they need to be intertwined. I reject your premise.
Hold on. You're still going to an entirely different conversation, though. Yeah, Again, we haven't even addressed whether they're independent. That's totally fine. I'm just simply asking you if you're erasing C, that's different than C before A. That's the only answer I need right now.
Yeah. If you're erasing C, that is a different thing than C coming before A relationally. Yes.
Okay, cool. So then whenever you were saying that those are just the same things, I think we can agree that's not.
What do you mean there? What we're talking about is different.
That's what I'm saying. So Secret,
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Secret, if we go back 3 minutes, whenever you were trying to say, oh, well, it just erases that time, and I said, oh, that's different. Then you said, how are they different? And then I said, I think we can all agree C before A and erasing C are different. You said, no, they're not. Now you're saying, yes, they are different. So that's the entire point.
I was confused about
you said previously they weren't. Okay, so that's why I'm trying to get us on track. This is I think, the problem with the modern day debating is we're moving from point to point without addressing. So C before A, erasing C, two very different things. Okay, so we can agree immeasurable speed and erasing C, different things.
Yes.
Right? Okay. So from my perspective, this is my entire point of the argument. Mm-hmm. If you're saying, first off, reverting is erasing, that's what I'm saying. Those are not the same things.
Yeah, when I say erase there, all I mean is just to get rid of the action or deny it. So we're just denying the reality. Here, let me pull up the statement.
Okay, so in here, he throws, if I remember right, he throws the blood on his eyes rather than on his face, and then it all reverts back to right before it happens, right?
Okay, he says you will never arrive at. Here, let me pull it up to the side. You will never arrive at the. Let me crop this a little bit so they can't see this.
It's a long ass text.
Yeah.
Okay, crop. Okay. There we go.
Okay, so can we agree he did actions and then now he's back to where he was, so he got reverted? He reverted his actions.
I don't ultimately, whether I agree to that or not isn't necessary for my argument, but say if I steelman that, what's their point there? Say I steelman that. I don't think that's the case, but say I steelman it. There we go. While he's gone, I'm just going to explain why I don't believe that's the case. He says, you will never arrive at the reality that will occur.
He left, yo.
Okay, he left? That's fine. Okay.
I don't think he had enough time.
That's fine. You will never arrive at the reality. None who stand before me shall ever do so, no matter what abilities they may yield. He says, you will never arrive at the reality that will occur. The reality that he's seeing, that he's trying to force into existence by erasing the time, to force consequences. That's being denied here. If that's being denied here, then I just say it's being erased. And if he says I haven't moved an inch from where I started, that would just support my view that there is no real progression here. And say I did hold that, right? Well, this should just lead to an infinite series of him erasing time again, because he goes back to I will not allow you the time to limit your own death. You should just activate his ability, and they would just go on infinite regress. But he doesn't. Okay, say I don't grant that. Say he does actually do something. Well, the only thing that's actually being instantiated there is the activation of the ability. Upon within the ability, nothing happens because time is erased. He verbatim says, let me find it. Oh, it's in the previous chapter. Let me go 586. I don't know who said I blundered, by the way, but like you're slow if you think I blundered.
Gang.
You're low-key slow if you think I blundered. Where's it at?
I don't think there was a single blunder. I'm gonna be
That
honest.
nigga Pinoyboi
I
so
shall erase time
Dirt,
from everyone but myself, so no one can act but him. There's nothing existing here except for his actions. So we wouldn't even say in a normative sense that that anything is really happening because time doesn't exist. If time doesn't exist, space doesn't exist under B theory. I explained to him, literally, by the way, I don't think there was any blunder. I explained to him why under A theory and B theory that he would be immeasurable speed. Like there's no blunder there. You just can't track. All right, back to the prompt.
Wait, I'm not gonna lie. Wait, yeah, I heard it. Like every time it went down to the B theory, he just said, "Oh," but he didn't understand the distinction between immeasurable speed, right? Giorno's speed, right, being immeasurable, and his ability.
Yeah,
He kept conflating the two. He said, "Oh, he's immeasurable," and then he'll bring up the ability, and that's